We are still waiting for one more speaker, Matt Carlucci. Hopefully he's on his way, but I want to go ahead and be mindful of everyone's time. I'm Maria Mark. I'm president of Beaches Watch, and I appreciate the great turnout here. We are hosting our meeting here because early voting started today, so we got kicked out of the library. So I apologize for the last minute change of location, but this is kind of an inaugural event for the new and improved Neptune Beach Senior Activity Center. So they really keep the seniors busy along with everyone else in here. It's a big support group for them. So I want to thank the City of Neptune Beach for letting us hold our meeting here at the last minute. Let's see. So our meeting is being videotaped, and it will be on our YouTube channel tomorrow, as well as our website. Our YouTube channel is Beaches Watch 2012. I don't know if you got, I did make copies of this since we don't have it on monitor. If you want to take it home with you, that's fine. So, as you know, we're a membership organization, and we depend on our membership for support for meetings like this, our upcoming candidate forums, our Give Back Award, our scholarship for Fletcher seniors. And so our memberships are $15 for individual, $20 for family, and we have a $5 student membership. They are annual from January through December, and you can renew your membership online, or you can renew your membership or join with the ladies who are sitting right outside. We will recognize elected officials. If I overlooked someone, please just raise your hand. Starting off, Sandy Golding, Vice Mayor of Jacks Beach. Curtis Ford, Mayor of Atlantic Beach. Carrie Chin, Vice Mayor of Neptune Beach. Fernando Amela, Jacks Beach City Council. Candace Kelly, City of Atlantic Beach Commissioner. Bruce Bowl, Atlantic Beach City Commissioner. John Wagner, Jacks Beach City Council. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Did I overlook anyone? Matt. Hey, welcome. Great. Matt Carlucci.
All right, Matt.
Glad you can make it.
Thank you.
Okay. Just a couple of announcements before we get to our panel. Atlantic Beach budget workshops. The next one will be held Monday, August 12th at 5:30. That will be in the chambers. Jacksonville Beach budget workshops. The next one will be Friday, August 9th. This will be talking about the executive, finance, HR, and IT, and legal. That'll run from 3 to 4:30. Monday, August 12th from 5 to 7 will be Public Works, Planning and Development, and Redevelopment. And that will be, those workshops will be held in the City Hall training room. Jacksonville Beach City Council briefing on Penman Road. I know that's a hot topic. This will take place on Tuesday, August 13th from 5 to 6:30, and that will be in the council chamber. Jacksonville Beach Land Development Code workshops. So the City of Jacksonville Beach will be conducting a full and complete and thorough review and revision of the city's land development code. So public workshops are scheduled to present and discuss proposed changes to the LDC, and public participation in the workshops is very important. So please plan to attend. All these dates will be on our website too. So they're scheduled for 6 to 7:30 in the chambers. August 14th, this will be residents and businesses. August 22nd, city board members, and then August 28th, city council members. But these are all open to the public to attend, correct? Okay. As you may or may not know, early voting started today, which is why we're here. It runs through Sunday, August 18th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and that's at the library in Neptune Beach. Our next meeting, very important as well. This will be on September 4th at 7 o'clock. We will be back at the library. This is going to talk about the local and state ballot measures. So we'll have Jerry Holland, Supervisor of Elections, here. We'll have the Jacks Beach City Manager here, and we are still trying to confirm either the Atlantic Beach City Manager or the Deputy Assistant City Manager. But mark your calendar, September 4th at 7 o'clock. Okay, on to our panel. So the panel is going to give about 5-minute, maybe 1 minute, 2-minute overview of what their priorities are coming up in the next year.
I'll cede my time to Ron.
And then we'll open it up to the audience for Q&A. All right. We will start with our former president, Ron Salem, followed by Chris Miller, then Nick Howland, then Terrence Freeman, and Matt Carlucci will bring up the rear. So, former president.
I've started my stopwatch up here so I can make sure well, first of all, thank you for having all of us. I think we all feel grateful to come out. It's always special to me because my at-large seat includes the beaches. And it is a seat that's been occupied by some Arlington people like myself, John Crescenbenny, and then on the other side it's been Elaine Brown and others from the beach. So I'm term limited, so that my seat is open. It'll be interesting to see if it's a beach person or an Arlington person that comes in and wins that election in 27. But it's always a pleasure to represent the beaches, and I try to be responsive to the mayors whenever they call and provide any service that I can. Just to talk a little bit initially about what we as a group have accomplished over the last year, I just want to mention 3 or 4 things. One, the Jaguar deal that we were able to pass on June 25th. A heroic effort by all my colleagues to get it done before we went on break. I think it's a good deal, a fair deal, and it's nice to know for all of us, beaches, everyone, that the Jags will be here for another 30 years. We also established the Sports Foundation last year. This is an entity through Visit Jacksonville that will be recruiting sporting events to Jacksonville. You might have already heard the first event they have attracted is the University of Florida, South Florida basketball game coming up. It's the opener for Florida in November. And they are going after the NCAA basketball tournament, which was here on a rotation 3 times that we lost. All sorts of other college events to bring good, clean, sporting people, tourists to Jacksonville, and which would be obviously be very good for the beaches as well. One of the things we also accomplished last year was our study on the jail. And through that process, I think we are now teeing up the possibility over the next few years of moving that jail out of downtown. And I can assure you through all those discussions, the beaches was a part of that, because obviously you don't have a jail out here, and you have to transport your people downtown, and there's a lot of concern is if it's moved out of downtown, where it's moved to, and the transportation challenges for people out, for your police forces out at the beaches to bring those in. And lastly, we got our opioid program up and running last year. It's, I think it's doing wonders across the community. I watch the overdose cases that our fire department picks up every month. We were averaging well over 400 a month, over 10 to 15 a day that were being picked up overdosed, and those numbers are dramatically down. And it's down across the country, but particularly here in Jacksonville. So I think some of the efforts of the council, JFRD, and others are beginning to show that we can make a difference with that disease. Looking forward, I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee, and a couple of people here serve with me, Terrence and Nick, and we are starting our hearings tomorrow morning on the budget, which is a 3-week process where we meet a couple of days for 6 to 8 hours a day. It will be a very challenging hearings on this particular budget. I've been a finance chair in the past, as Nick has, and this budget's a little more challenging for many of us with the amount of reserves that are being used to balance the budget. So I think there will be a lot of discussion about how we handle those reserves over the next few weeks. The other thing that's before the council that's, I think, a major accomplishment are the raises we will be voting on soon for police and fire, and getting police and fire back into a retirement system through the Florida retirement system. And I think we're already seeing dividends with that, as the applications to police and fire are up dramatically since that was announced. So I'll be very consumed with the budget over the next month or two, and that's where I'm at. So thank you so much again, and I'll turn it over to Chris.
All right, I had my timer going too, so hopefully I'll stay right to that 5 minutes or less.
4:57.
Yeah, that was very good. 0.91. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things real quick, just about my background, because I know a number of you, but there are many of you I see I don't know. So I just want to give you a feel for my background. I'm a 30-year active duty Army officer and served here in the late 80s, early 90s, running Army recruiting, and I always wanted to get back to Jacksonville. Didn't know how an Army guy was going to get back here, but I was determined to do it. And when I was here, I spent most of my weekends at the beaches. Yeah, even though I did live in town, but I spent most of the weekends here, ragtime. There's a little hot dog place that I used to frequent on that same strip, and spent a lot of time here. Loved the beaches. Well, when I was able to get back, and my wife and I, when we came back in 2011, we lived in South Ponte Vedra area. We rented from a good friend of ours, and my wife always wondered why I was so crazy taking the shovel out during turtle nesting seasons, but it really bothered me if there was a cliff on the sand, and I can just envision in the middle of the night these turtles trying to get in to nest and lay their eggs, and they're faced with a cliff and they've got to go back to the water or go somewhere else. So I would spend hours out there trying to get a good ramp for those turtles to get up during nesting seasons. So I tell you that story just to say I love the beaches. I love the beach communities, and we'll do whatever we can to support you all. And I will also say, with me, get a 2-for-1. When I'm on my federal time representing one of our congressmen, actually your congressman, John Rutherford, I can't I can't talk about this, but I'm on my own time tonight representing my city position. So I tell you that because I have the good fortune of having good relationships with the 3 beaches mayors and with previous ones as well. And so I've been working with them for over 8 years, and on a number of issues, and we all get along very well, and we talk and meet on a regular basis, as we can. So I carry that input with me, wearing both hats, federal or city hat, and I take it seriously. And when they say something like, we're only getting 18 cents of every dollar back to the beaches, I've heard it a number of times, and I don't let go of that. And so we collectively take those kinds of things seriously. Also, I will get to the things that I think overall are most important to me. I won't get into the details with too many things because of time, but public safety is number one with me, will always be, and it should be for any government. And I will be spending a lot of time over the next year continuing to focus on that issue. And I am the city council rep to the veterans groups, the military and veterans and their families. And so I take that seriously as well, being an old Army guy here. And spent a lot of time at Mayport with both hats, and I come out whenever I can. The Jax Vets guys that meet at Penman Diner, I'm there as often as I can, but they meet at 6:15. I mean, these old guys are still getting up early, but I get a lot of great input from those guys as well. I will also tell you that homeless and homeless-related issues, I see Cindy here, Cindy Funkhauser from Sulzbacher, and tying in with the different beaches organizations that address homelessness. and related issues, because there are a lot of mental health and other related issues that we're going to take on a lot more this year in some of our efforts. So I mentioned that as a focus item as well, not only for myself, but also for the council and the city as a whole. I will also mention, and I just had a conversation with Mayor Ford about this today. I'm concerned about, even though they're an independent organization, I guess I should watch a little bit about what I say, because we don't have oversight over DCPS. But I will say I'm concerned about what you all are concerned about, what seemed to be a sudden, we're going to close very good schools, and we're going to close them down, or we're going to ship kids other places, and it just seems like it's a fast train. And did we go through all of the steps we should have gone through before we got to this point? And to that end, may not be popular with some people, but I really think this is the Inspector General in me. I was Inspector General for Department of Defense throughout Europe and Israel, and also throughout Florida for the Florida National Guard. But I believe we need to know where we are now and how we've been utilizing the taxpayers' dollars up to this point before we can chart the course forward. So I highly recommend the new superintendent call for a forensic audit, an outside forensic audit, to get an assessment of where we really are and how well we've been making decisions with that $2.6 billion revenue stream, yes, with a B, that they have at their disposal every year. So I won't go too much further into that, but that just gives you a feel for what I'm thinking along those lines also, and that I have been communicating with your mayors on that issue as well. And Penman Road was mentioned. That's way overdue. I know you guys are giving a lot of input on that, and we're in that phase right now, but I fully support the work that needs to be done on Penman. And so with that, I think I'm going to just pass on from there and go over to my friend Nick here, and he'll move on. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. My name is Nick Howland. I'm a Navy veteran. I'm the at-large Group 3 City Councilman. I'm also from that outburst of applause and unabashed supporter of Congressman John Rutherford, as well as Aaron Bean, and also up for election in the next few weeks, our Senator Rick Scott. But for me, since we're all talking about our beaches, chops, in case anyone doesn't know, Jacksonville City Council split into 19 city council members, 14 represent districts, so the entirety of Duval County split up into 14 districts. The Beaches District is represented by Councilman Roy Diamond. The 5 at-large seats, we have what are called residential areas. So you, basically all of Duval County split into 5 residential areas. Ron mentioned his goes from Arlington and curves south and goes to the whole beaches. Mine goes from Mandarin all the way to the Intercoastal Waterway south of Beach Boulevard. And then these gentlemen have other residential areas. The reason they did that, Matt would know because he's been with City Council since consolidation. But but at one point, the 5 at-large council people were all living within like a mile of each other, like San Marco, Riverside area. And so they ended up splitting up, creating these geographic areas so we're more spread around. But that said, even though we have to live in one of those areas, we're elected by the entirety of Duval County. I live over in Intercoastal West area, Jacksonville Golf and Country Club at Beach and Hodges, and I've been there for 18 years. And since we are talking about beaches, chops, really except for the last 2 or 3 years, maybe even 5 years of my time in Jacksonville, it has revolved almost entirely around the beaches. So my kids both went to Jacks Beach Elementary. Now they're Landon, and they're both in Stanton. Actually, one just graduated Stanton. He'll go to UF next week. I've recreated in the beaches. Bruce is over there. Bruce, you're looking down at your phone, but Bruce and I played soccer over at Fletcher in an over 40 men's soccer group for a long time, along with Sandy's husband Jim. My wife works at Atlantic Beach with Scotty Wiley, wherever Scotty is. He's around. There he is. And my doctor is Dr. Mike Waters with Candace and Bruce in Atlantic Beach County City Commission. So most of my time is spent at least it was for the first 10 to 12 years of my time in Jacksonville, on your side of the ditch. So I'm heavily familiar with a lot of the issues that face those in the beaches, and I've knocked a lot of doors on the beaches. But one really important thing you often hear, and I'm sure when questions start, Ellen, wherever she went, will be up right in the beginning. There you are, Ellen. You always hear, and it's universally assumed, I think it's correct, that the beaches are a donor community to the city. So it's very, very important for you all, as I'm sure you know, that we, as stewards of the city coffers, really look at how we spend money in the city of Jacksonville in a responsible way. And as Ron mentioned, I was the last finance chair. Now Ron is a finance chair. We switch up duties generally every July 1st. And I think we're in pretty solid financial footing, or have been. And now we see some headwinds, so we're going to have to make some hard choices. But we have record reserves. We have record amounts that we've been able to put during the good years towards PAYGO, which is basically paying for our large capital investments instead of having to take debt out for those capital investments. And we're now faced with a budget squarely in our hands, the 19 of us, just recently received from the mayor, and we've got to make sure we stay on a solid financial footing. And I think you'll see that out of this city council. So as a donor community, I think there are problems. I'm sure we'll hear about the solid waste loan tonight. But I think you'll agree overall that we're in pretty strong financial footing, and as a council, we intend to keep us in that posture. Just a little bit about my priorities on council. They remain the same as when I ran 2.5 years ago in the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022. And those priorities are always supporting public safety, so safer streets, safer neighborhoods. Always investing in infrastructure. It's one of the core responsibilities of local government, and there are places, sometimes in the beaches and where I live, you often hear complaints that we're spending too much time downtown. There's probably some truth to that, but there's also some truth to the fact that we have left some of those neighborhoods behind, and there are reasons and areas that we need to invest, and we are. The third is creating jobs. So we have different levels of unemployment in different parts around the city. If you look at the east side, out east it's called, we're looking at 12% unemployment there compared to the rest of the city, which is just under 4%. So there are places that we need to encourage companies to locate, encourage folks to get workforce training, so those companies have a ready and available workforce. And I think that's incumbent upon our city leaders to focus on that. And lastly, we need to do all those things, I think, in a fiscally responsible way, which I've already addressed. So those are my priorities. They have been from the beginning. They remain that way, whether it's good times or bad. It's public safety, infrastructure, jobs, and fiscal responsibility. With that, I'll turn it over to my good friend, Terrence Freeman.
Thank you, Nick, and good evening to all, and thank you all for having us here. You have 3 past presidents on the council. I think that's pretty cool, and thank you too for your service in the military. I was just simply a baseball coach, and I'll be brief, but I will be consistent. I chose you tonight over spending time at my wife's teacher orientation with my daughters, and that doesn't happen often. My priorities have always been my faith, my family, my job, and then my passions. But I noticed we were having this contest of who can jump the highest with the beaches, and so, but I'm in my second term and I'm not up for re-election. So I will simply say this, and I started with my wife and my kids because that is my why. And if you don't know the story, I'll gladly meet with you for a cup of coffee and share with you why I chose to come into policy making, which is now politics, which I call a ministry. And it's why I try to keep this demeanor no matter what the conversation is or what level it rises to. So what's my priority? Kids and seniors. And I know that if I focus on taking care of kids and seniors, everyone in the middle gets taken care of. And so I'm going to end there and give time for you all to ask questions. My mom tells me I'm a horrible politician because she says you care too much, but I don't like to brag about everything I've done. And so I just would rather you ask questions, and in the course of your questions, you might hear about some of the workforce things and a lot of other things that I've done in this community. But the beaches, to me, and I will not close without saying this, my good friend Tom Berry. And if you know Tom Berry, then you know how good of a man he was. and Tom Berry married my wife and I. And so that was a tough time to go through, and he's a dear friend, and he's sort of missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. And I went to school with Tom Berry, and he was a wonderful gentleman and very sad. And I was at his funeral. Well, I brought up the rears, so I don't know what else to say. I will just say this: I always try to jump high for the beaches when they call on me, and I love the beaches. I love so many of the elected officials out here who really care, and even when they're not elected anymore, they basically still are, because they're leading in this community in many ways. I see so many familiar faces out there, and it's some folks I'd like to get to know afterwards. So there's a resolution the council is going to be taking up before long, and it's going to be a resolution that says for those schools in Duval that are being considered for shutdown, if they have an A or a B rating, then they should stay open. And Atlantic Beach, Mayport Elementary, now these are elementary schools I'm talking about. San Pablo, that's probably on the other side of the ditch, I would imagine. No. It's here? Okay. Well, those three are in this resolution, and we're just going to be requesting the school board to consider what we're thinking. We don't want to stick our nose in their business. We got enough business to take care of ourselves. What I want to do, I can tell you right now, there's two things I want to do, and I want to work hard on. I want to see Mayor Deegan's budget passed almost identical to what it is. We're using reserves, but we've used reserves for so many of the 18 years I've been on the council, and I just got to tell you, a lot of this money is going to things that the council has already passed, which are economic development projects and so forth. So I want to see her budget passed because it touches so many issues that are important to us. Homeless issues, the workforce development, and then the other thing I want to see get passed is the community benefits agreement. And that should be left as much intact as possible. The council will be reviewing it, but ironically, she sent us a wonderful deal for the NFL, and we passed it. We did a very thorough job on it, but it was a good deal, and we got it passed. But ironically, it was the community benefits agreement is what made the damn NFL agreement so popular. And now we put that off. And I don't want to see that get stuck up in the budget process. I want to see us complete that. Folks, we talk a lot about all these issues, from homeless to affordable housing to the east side and parks. Well, we got a chance to do it with this budget and with the complete and with the community benefits agreement. I can't say I have any great issues that I've got out in front of the council right now, but the two things I want to see done, because I've seen them talked about for so many years, I want to see her budget get through, and I want to see the CBA, and I'm not concerned about reserves being used. We used the reserves last year for the jail and probably some other stuff. By the way, I did bring a bunch of these from the mayor's desk, and I'll leave them up here if you want to read about the mayor's budget. And by the way, I want to say, our mayor, in my view, is doing just such a tremendous job. She has balanced her responsibilities and been responsive to the council, I think, in a wonderful way. And this is my last term. I want to see stuff get done. And I see people in here that want to see stuff get done. And it takes money. And if we pass the CBA and we pass the mayor's budget, then we will be in good shape, much better than many years past. God bless you. If you got anything for me, I'll be around afterwards. And I think I made it under 5 minutes.
So the question my colleague just asked is, because of sunshine laws, if a meeting is not noticed and given 24 hours to the public, then any pending legislation or anything that we've worked on that might come back to us, only one can speak. So since he's brought up something that is before the body, the other 4 now are somewhat silenced on that issue. So.
Maybe they should ask questions
Well,
to individuals.
That's right, but Sandy, when you and I talked, I asked if it was going to be a noticed meeting because of the sunshine law. And so did this meeting get noticed?
I don't know. I don't know if your assistant did it or not. Your aide.
I don't know.
I don't know
if he did. He's not here.
Okay.
But I will tell you that was the intent. I would never put my colleagues in harm's way with the sunshine law. I believe in sunshine law stronger than probably anybody around. But I also.
Because it's noted in the paper and stuff like that. Is that different than what you all have to do?
Maybe you should ask questions to individuals. I think that'll keep it fairly clean.
And then we can't have a roundtable discussion with opinions. So what he just said about the budget, I can't weigh in about it.
It's killing me, too.
Oh, could you tell I'm twitching?
Well, that's good,
Yeah.
because I happen to be right on that.
That's the first time you're going to have a subject matter that you don't have any pushback on, right? Right on that. So before we get to the questions, I just want to make sure that we kind of know the ground rules. Please make your question direct. If it's directed at one particular person or the entire panel, please indicate that. And just be mindful of, we have a lot of people here and we want to try and get to as many people as we can at the meeting. So if you raise your hand, I'll call on you. Please, if you can't stand, it just will project better. Make sure we get it on the video, and then we'll proceed. So Kevin was the first to raise his hand. So Kevin?
So are we directing this at, like Ron? So my big concern is environmental resiliency in our county. My big concern is, there been any discussion or have y'all gone any farther with a canopy study for trees and sequestering of water in this area?
I'm going to let Chris Miller answer that. Chris is on the tree commission, and I know they're looking at a canopy study, so I think he's better off
Fine.
answering that, if that's okay.
And I'm gonna no.
I mean, I can answer some of this, but I just want to know if y'all are still talking about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and I know the administration is as well. And there is a resilience officer who's been in that position for a while now, and I know Matt was on the council committee that looked at that for some time. But if you want to get anything specific, I'd be happy to do that, because I'm going to stay on the tree commission, which entertains all projects that anyone submits from throughout the city that they would like to see on public land. And so there's still plenty of dollars in those funds that they're able to access based on mitigation monies that are paid by developers who cut down trees, and if they don't replace them as they're supposed to, then that money is able to be used for other plannings to build a canopy, to be able to help with hot spots, whatever the issues are over a bus stop and there's no protection, other things like that. So, you know, I won't get into plan details, but they are going through that process right now on a comprehensive plan for our city. But I will just suggest any of you or any of the communities that you really have a need for tree plantings, please come and submit those requests to the Tree Commission for consideration. And there are very few that don't get approved after our arborists and others have looked into them, and they make sure things will be viable and they are going to be used for the right purposes. So that's a long answer, but happy to follow up with you or anyone else on this subject. And
Can I add something?
And Councilman, oh, go ahead.
I know we looked at a bill recently and we funded it to do that canopy study, as I recall, just 2 or 3 months ago.
It's done.
It's done. Kevin, if you'll follow up with me, I can get you the bill number and all that specifics. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce?
Bruce Bowl, Atlantic Beach. You just talked about us being a donor area, right? From my 4 years on the city commission in Atlantic Beach, I'm a little confused. So if you look at the money that the beaches taxes pay, it's somewhere between 17 and 24 cents that we get back. Brittany Norris is a great input on Donna Deacon's staff that you guys can talk to. So I would say, if we're paying that kind of money, and in Atlantic Beach, we have our own police force, right? We pay the city of Jacksonville, Duval, for our fire. I'm a little confused where that other 83 cents goes, because we're in the middle of an interlocal agreement that we're looking at with the city of Jacksonville, right? We cover Neptune Beach fire. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'll be a donor, you know, at Atlantic Beach, but I'm confused on what we get back. It's a general question, but it's confusing. I'm sure a lot of people in here would like to hear that answer. Thanks.
No, I'll say something to that.
And the rest of us can't, but I don't know.
Well, then, you go ahead.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say something controversial, and y'all might hate me for saying this, but we have a jail downtown. You don't have a jail out here. We have a courthouse downtown. You don't have a courthouse out here. And I don't know if that 17 cent encompasses those expenses. Because whenever I hear this, my response is build a jail, build a courthouse, and then come back and talk to me. Those are very expensive. That jail is going to cost us $1 billion to replace. That courthouse was, 500 or 600 million 20 years ago when we built it. Pardon me?
I don't think that math still adds up.
Okay. No, I'm not suggesting you're not paying more than you're getting. I'm not disputing that, but I think there's some major expenses that aren't included in those discussions.
Mr. Wilson?
Thank you. First of all, I'm Don Wilson, former mayor of Atlantic Beach, and I want to thank all of you for your service. Matt, Ron, I know that two of you have done it for a long time. But serving the community is not easy. So I just wanted to start by telling you how much we appreciate your representing our beaches. That being said, Ron, you mentioned, and I'm following up on Commissioner Bowles, interlocal agreement. I'm going to ask the entire group, how many of you have read the interlocal agreements between the city of Jacksonville and the beaches communities? If you could just show me by hand.
I did once upon a time.
Completely, okay. You know we have two of them. Back in 1968. I guess I'm really trying to provide some intellectual, institutional knowledge, because I'm not an intellect. But anyway, so there was a lawsuit that took place. Following that, I believe it was 1968, 1979. In 1979, the beaches filed a lawsuit against the city of Jacksonville because, to your point, Ron, we were not getting our fair share. We prevailed. Then 10 years later, city of Atlantic Beach went back against the city of Jacksonville, filed another lawsuit. We again prevailed. What Commissioner Bowles is saying, there's an imbalance. I happened to sit with Mr. Killingsworth on, it's called the Interlocal Agreement Committee. We are meeting with the city of Jacksonville. We're negotiating that agreement. I'm hopeful that we find a way that we do not have to go to litigation again. We don't want to. We want our fair share. And Ron, to your point, we understand. We've got the port, we've got the airport, and we've got the JEA, and a host of other issues, other services. But what we want to make sure is that there's a balance. We don't want to take something that's disproportionate, but we want to, especially the five of you, because you represent all of Duval County, you represent all of us. And please understand that interlocal agreement is a legal binding agreement between the city of Jacksonville and all municipalities in the city.
Respectfully, Mr. Wilson, do you have a question, or?
I have
mean,
no
we just
question.
I've asked people to please just get to the question, although I understand the background you want to
Well,
lay out.
they answered one of my questions. The two of you have read, or three of you have read the interlocal agreement. But there's also another interlocal agreement with the Duval County Public Schools. And they have ignored it. They have ignored it for the last 12 years. And they don't respond now. We have asked them time and again. So what I'm asking is for what Councilman Carlucci said. There's going to be a resolution that's coming before you. And I know that you don't interfere or you don't get in public schools because they're an independent group. But please understand that the actions that they're taking are affecting all of us countywide.
Mr. Wilson, time, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I interject something?
Yes.
I just confirm that this meeting is not noticed, and I want my colleagues to know that. And I think I was going to ask Corey to do that, and probably I forgot. And for that, I apologize. But I want to make sure that my colleagues are not in harm's way. I'm only here for 3 more years. I've done my 20 and I'm gone. So they can run me over if they want to, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that officially and for sure. So really, we need to take input from the crowd and for us to give you any answers that might involve any legislation that comes before the council. We have just broke the sunshine law. So I'm just saying, I apologize.
I've gone to OGC, Office of General Counsel, and I've asked them for guidance. And the guidance was, the first question was this meeting open to the public? I think the answer is yes.
Yes.
So it was not noticed properly, but since it's open to the public, that alleviates some of the issue. But we have to do exactly what we said we were going to do. When we did introductions, we didn't violate the Sunshine Amendment, and we asked a question before we got the first question. And her answer is, my advice is you all do not address each other directly or indirectly in your comments. So we can take individual questions, answer them, and we cannot bring that topic up again, and we can't talk about each other or pass the microphone over to each other.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Do we have a question? Glasser? Ellen?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ellen Glasser, also a former mayor in Atlantic Beach, and I won't bring up the solid waste issue that Nick mentioned because he brought it up already. There's a huge debt service on a loan that Jacksonville took to pay the solid waste fees, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that needs to be addressed. We talked about it last year. But my question relates to another interlocal agreement. It's the one that is a 3-way agreement between DCPS, the City Council of Jacksonville, and the 4 municipalities. Each one of them has their own, and that's related to schools and concurrency. And I hear Councilman Carlucci talking about a resolution that may come before to address A and B schools. But in light of the failure to abide by the terms of that interlocal agreement, would you all consider, if that one fails, a resolution to exempt the beaches schools, who I think all happen to be A schools, high-performing, well-utilized? Would you consider a resolution? Because you are a party to that interlocal agreement that has not been complied with. Would you consider that? Because this is about our neighborhood kids. I would think everybody would support keeping high-performing schools open at the beaches. Would each of you be willing to consider that? That's my question.
Thank you.
Sure. That's what this bill does, though, exactly what you're talking about. Ellen, it does exactly that. That's a good idea that you reinforced, but this bill does that.
Well, the beaches we are a little different in the terms that we are independent municipalities. So I'm just saying, failing that, would you consider the beaches schools?
I think the resolution addressed this is for the beaches schools.
Oh, all right.
I think, but if not, we should do that.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to just follow up real quick. When questions are generally asked to the group as a whole, the body as a whole, you're gonna see me specifically tighten up. Our ethics department just said it's best for us to take questions individually. Matt is good because, I mean, Councilmember Carlucci is good. Matt Carlucci is good because he brought the topic up first. So it was something that he brought to the table. So I'm just saying, do not try to read into our silence for anything other than we are observing the law.
I totally respect
Because
that.
I know the camera's running and they can't see all of the things that are going on, and I want to. This is really frustrating for me now because I'm a preacher's kid, so it's not. And I'm a coach, and some folks in here I can go a little bit.
Understood. We can go to the next question.
And actually, the ethics direction now updates it, says at this point, offer to speak to people individually if they have questions rather than it's an open forum. So.
Then you should do this again.
This is.
You should do this again because this is not going to, you know.
Yeah, this is being recorded.
One thing.
And this is all sunshine, it's public record. Public
Excuse me
record.
for interrupting, just one other idea, just throwing it out. 4 of us can go out, and 1 of us can stay. For 5 to 10 minutes.
No.
The next one comes in, 5 to 10 minutes. The next one comes in, and that way, at least all of us get to time.
As long as we're going to midnight, that's
And there'll be no violations of the sunshine.
If, let's try this option. If the audience asks someone specifically, then that's fine.
right.
Okay, so please specify your question to one particular council member and let that council member answer specifically, and then we'll move on.
And then that issue can't be discussed by any other council member for the rest of the night.
Right.
So you're gonna have to make a note.
So,
Nick, talking
okay.
military.
Yeah.
For Chris Miller, Chris, you had mentioned having a forensic study. I'm here with the Duval County Public School System. It needs a lot of support right now. It's not getting much support from the state of Florida. So I'm asking you, what would a forensic study of the public school system do?
Yes, like most organizations have when they want to find out, how are we doing? How are we doing with the use of finances? How are we doing with our leadership decisions? Instead of a regular audit, a forensic audit. It gets into the, not just were you allowed to spend the money the way you did you make good use, good leadership decisions with the money you spent? I'm just suggesting, here's a good start for the new superintendent, good starting place. Just a suggestion, again, with my Inspector General hat on, who I used to go assess organizations all over the place, trying to see where you are and then see where the room for improvement is. So I would say that for DCPS or anyone else. And there are parts of our city government, you know, we could use similar type things, and we have, so.
Stay with the,
Yes.
Yeah. It sounds like you're putting the onus on the Duval County School Board instead of the state of Florida that has put vouchers in place and charter schools in place. And underpopulation really is also an issue for schools everywhere.
Yeah, it's a shared responsibility because they have, you know, they have a Department of Education at the state level. So yes, it is a dual responsibility.
Are you shifting kind of blame onto Duval County school system instead of looking at the bigger picture?
No, I'm not. I'm just shifting the blame. I'm just saying that is one way to find out for the new superintendent where you are as the new person coming in. That's all. I just wanted to leave it there. I don't want to, because they are an independent organization. And we, as I said, we don't have oversight over them. So I just made that comment because the consternation came up about the closings and the other things. So I don't want to go I'd like to not go any further with that. That's just a suggestion of one way to find out where you are and how well you're doing with what you do have. That's it. I didn't mean to imply anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, good evening to this honorable board and all the honorable councilmen, and of course to Mr. Carlucci. The honorable Mr. Carlucci, thank you. I was late because I was under the impression this was at the library, and I pride myself on never being late. And it seems like our hands are tied here and we can't really speak openly. I was hoping we could reschedule this week, please.
I think
That
to
is-
do what y'all want to do, it really needs to be rescheduled. We probably have overstepped sunshine law. I know that because I know the sunshine law. I served on the Florida Commission on Ethics. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news. The only other thing is, like I said, 4 of us could step out and come in, and one come in every 5 or 10 minutes, but that doesn't, you don't get to hear from all of us that way. But we can sit here and continue to try to do our best, but I do think we are putting ourselves a bit in harm's way. And I think Sandy, so I'm going to take the blame, not my colleagues, I'm taking the blame, mentioned that my council aide could notice that, which he could have noticed it. And you know what? I didn't get it done. I can blame it on my 68 years of life, or I can just blame it on not saying, taking it up right then and there. So we're in a bad spot.
Okay, thank you.
Why don't we end the meeting and we mingle out individually and talk to individual people?
Fine.
Yes.
But I still think we should have another meeting.
That was going to be my suggestion. To be scheduled in the future, we will deal with that on the programs committee side with Beaches Watch. I apologize for this as well, but it is what it is. So we have about, technically, the room till about 8 o'clock, but we need to straighten it out and put it back the way it was. So we have some time here. If you guys want to step out in the lobby, talk one-on-one. What? Are you going to address it to a certain council member, Carrie?
Yeah.
All right. Is it brief?
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
Thank you.
Carrie Chen, Vice Mayor of Neptune Beach. I'm going to, as a person who is familiar with the Sunshine Law because I've had to take annual ethics trainings on it, I'm going to step back and revisit the issue of resiliency and add some infrastructure to it. I wanted to thank Nick Howland for your help in getting us $8 million for a culvert on Florida, but here now I'm going to ask for a request of, Ron Salem, downstream of that culvert is going to be another bottleneck, and hopefully I can put in a request for a little more money to help fix that so that we don't fix one thing and end up with the same problem downstream of that first fixed item. And also, considering how we're a coastal barrier community here at the beaches, that a lot of our infrastructure could use a little extra help because we're the front line of the hurricane defense for the First Coast. So I'm hoping that in your next budget that you're considering that you will throw in some extra consideration for the beaches communities. And no real questions, so I'm hopefully not violating.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a lot of requests.
Leave it right there.
Okay.
We heard what you said.
Thank you.
All right, so I think for purposes to make sure we are staying within the Sunshine Law, we will adjourn now. Please remember next month's meeting, we'll be talking about the ballot, what's on the ballot for November. Jerry Holland will be here. We'll have the city managers from Jacksonville Beach and Atlantic Beach here. If you want to mingle one-on-one out in the lobby, help yourself. I will be shutting the lights off probably in about 7 minutes. Okay, thank you.